PokeRogue. I hate this game. But not as much as I hate myself, apparently. Usually in a PokeRogue run, you would choose from a list of Pokemon to start with. For this challenge, I'm starting with just this guy. Yeah. He's not even a shiny. With literally zero opportunity to expand my team until I find another one of this guy. Help! Fortunately for me, my Magikarp is graced with the hidden move Flip Turn, which gives him a damage dealing stab move of 60. He's also got the passive ability Multiscale, reducing damage taken by half when at max HP. Oh, and Pokerus. Needless to say that if I didn't have these things, I'd be able to defeat a grand total of 0 Pokemon. And even with these things, my boy is still comically weak, and I'm stuck with this idiot until he reaches level 20. How do I even get him to level 20? So, with high hopes in my heart and a floppy fish by my side, I set out on my journey to see how far I could make it in PokeRogue. This might take me a few tries. As you could see, even the Pokemon in the first area would give me trouble, mostly falling to grass types, double battles, status conditions I can heal from, or any Pokemon that growled at me. No, I'm serious. And even then, no matter how lucky my runs would start, most would end by the time I reached floor 8. Ivy had the chance to pull out any starter Pokemon plus a regional bird, meaning if I landed on the 1 in 3 chance of her owning a grass starter, I was screwed. Water types also overpowered me and left me with no room to deal good damage because all I had was a not very effective Flip Turn. Not to mention that her regional bird had the chance of being a Waterall, an electric type, meaning even if I got lucky and won the 1 in 3 chance of her actually having a fire type, I could still die to this stupid bird. It certainly didn't help that Flip Turn only had a PP of 15 and that Magikarp has a base attack stat of 10. Nevertheless, I was determined to at least get decently far in this challenge, and to do it without clicking on that seductive refresh button winking at me.
That's right, we're gonna cheat.
Only pressing this a couple of times in my runs when the game froze after a battle. I made sure to fully stream every run so that I wouldn't get called out on this, and so that my viewers could enjoy watching me slowly lose the will to live. You're welcome. I started out each run the same, spamming Flip Turn until I had any other option become available, while crossing my fingers for any good items that came along the way. I had to balance my money, HP and PP just right, with money being important for healing, needed for multiscale to work. I also had the option to re-roll items. Gonna do the rare re-roll and get a nugget, which is gonna just pay for the reroll I just did. This wasn't recommended. But after doing this for 2 hours and barely getting anywhere each run, I took no issues in taking early risks, especially with the first Ivy fight approaching. Nothing mattered until then. The moment of truth came, and thankfully I was blessed with a Score Bunny who I one-shot, and a Rookidee who I also took down. Problem was, I was so jaded at this point that I didn't care. I knew that this was just the first of many, many potential painful hurdles to come. Nevertheless, I continued on with my quest, making sure I kept an eye on my PP. Even that had ruined runs before. And on the floor before the first boss, I found a TM for Bounce. This was huge. Despite having 5 PP and a 15% chance of missing, this move was crucial for dealing with grass types and any Pokemon really who laughed in the face of my Flip Turn. I reached the first boss and was relieved to see a level 7 Spearow who I took out with 2 Flip Turns. The real challenge came on floor 12, which presented me with a double battle. I had one of these on floor 3 as well, but since one Pokemon was an Abra, it didn't matter. Conversely, this time, it was a massive problem, and I barely got out alive, surviving on just 2 HP. If I hadn't have picked up a rare candy on the floor just before this, or if this Meowth had Technician, or if any of these moves had crit me, it would have been GG's. Luckily, this wasn't the case, and I was rewarded handsomely for my victory with a TM containing Hydro Pump. Another very useful TM to find. I took out more and more Pokemon, healing every step of the way until I ran into an Ace Trainer. I was briefly happy seeing a Tepig, before that was all ripped away from me. Fortunately, this was fine, and I still had multiscale and outspared anyway. I was also a little scared of this Goomy, but despite missing a few bounces, Magikarp eventually came through for me and then cleared up the little Tepig with Flip Turn. And for this, I was given a very lucky reward. Mega Bracelet. Ooh! Okay, I cannot die. On floor 20, I faced the second boss, a level 11 Lechonk who stood zero chance against my level 17 Magikarp. Problem was, I'd now reached the first crossroads without finding a map. And without a map, I was at risk of being dumped into a bad area for my Magikarp. Luckily for me, I was transported to the lake, which meant I was at the mercy of better water types, but also meant that I had a chance of encountering more Magikarp. Unfortunately, I first had to get past a very tough Psyduck, who I had managed to paralyze with Bounce, but who had also confused me using Water Pulse. I was in a tough spot. Using any move would risk me hurting myself in confusion, and using Bounce, taking 2 turns to work, would double those chances and potentially interrupt the move mid-use. Flip Turn and Hydro Pump, on the other hand, weren't very effective, and Hydro Pump didn't have great accuracy just like Bounce. I also wasn't sure if Flip Turn was enough to KO, so I was stuck. All I could do was take a risk. I tried a Flip Turn, but it backfired, and I got hit with another Confusion, leaving me with just 4 HP. Things had gone from bad to worse, and I started to panic hard. Oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Once again, it was looking like it was time to reset. Or was it? Snapped out of confusion. Yes! Oh, fuck me! By the very skin of my teeth, I had made it through, and my good luck didn't end there. Almost to level...
It's about damn time.
At last, I had caught another Magikarp and expanded my team. It even had Jolly. This was a massive relief. Not only could I now use Flip Turn to actually switch to another Pokemon, this meant I also had a backup for when my first Magikarp was in trouble. Which is what I would say, except I completely forgot this Magikarp still only had Splash. Thankfully, I was finally able to evolve my first Magikarp with the help of Rare Candy. However, I almost had a heart attack during this as the game started to freeze again. I don't appreciate you freezing mid-evolution. Luckily, everything was fine, and more importantly, I now had a Gyarados, with Bite, and Intimidate. This couldn't come soon enough as the second Ivy battle came immediately after this, but in all the excitement of trying to keep my heart from killing me, not only did I forget to revive my Magikarp, I also forgot to heal my Gyarados. And I had 3 Pokemon to get through. Ivy led with her reboot and hit me straight away with a Fire Spin. I responded with Flip Turn and thankfully ended it immediately. The heavens then kindly bestowed upon me the ability to learn Waterfall. I knew what the Lord wanted me to do, so in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, vanquished the last remaining evils of Ivy's team. Once again, I had slipped through by the skin of my teeth. If I hadn't have grabbed a rare candy and evolved my Magikarp just before this battle, this video would have ended by now. Speaking of teeth, Gyarados then learned Crunch right after, and I finally spent what little money I had reviving my Magikarp. Apparently this wouldn't matter though, as on the very next floor, I bumped into another Magikarp. Unfortunately for me though, this one sucked. On floor 30 I ran into my very first gym leader, Crash Awake. With a team full of water types, Gyarados' Crunch powered me through this battle, having to use my latest Magikarp as a sacrifice when Wake pulled out his own Gyarados. Other than that, I'd survived the fight fairly unharmed, and even managed to evolve my second Magikarp right after. The beach came next, and it was here I was able to complete my Gyarados trio. We're getting a third Gyarados, baby! I was also given the opportunity to learn Aqua Tail. No thanks. I proceeded to skate through the area with relative ease, with my 3 Gyarados trampling over anything that stood in my way, including the boss on floor 40. I also picked up a candy jar. After all that came the sea area, and look what we found already. I didn't catch it, but once again I was able to fly through most of this area thanks to Crunch, and finally taught my boys Dragon Dance along the way. Which, if you didn't know, is a fantastic move to have, especially in PokeRogue where the buffs carry over floors, allowing you to bulldoze your way through most wild Pokemon. And so with this, there was nothing that could stop me.
Hi.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. So yeah. Sometimes being too comfortable in this game isn't a good thing. I'd spent the previous floor trying and failing to catch another Gyarados, and without a second thought continued my run as usual, not healing any of my Pokemon and no longer having any buffs from Dragon Dance due to switching Pokemon. So when the game decided to show me this, it's no secret to say that I shat myself. Why are you in the water area? With its 2 health bars, high base speed and special attack stat, and electric typing meaning its moves dealt 4 times the damage to any one of my Gyarados, there was nothing I could do. No, I mean actually, there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do except use my ultimate trump card. Bye. Yeah, you can run from these, which to me is hilarious. Of course, I could have attempted to do this with the Psyduck on floor 21, however, running away doesn't give you an item afterwards and therefore gives you no opportunity to heal between battles. But I had made it past floor 50 and reached the seabed. At this point, all my Gyarados had PokeRogue and always hit the level cap in each area, meaning I was in a damn good position. Even during the third rival fight, Ivy never switched off Cinderace, which meant she still had nothing to counter my Gyarados. A few Dragon Dances later, and I swept her team effortlessly. I picked up a Reviver Seed and reached the end of the biome already. There I bumped into Yuan, this guy, who led with a Relicanth, which had no rock moves. This went as you might expect. I moved on to the cave area and quickly dominated it, teaching Gyarados Ice Fang along the way with a Memory Mushroom, and taking down the biome boss Glimora in one shot. In fact, for the next few areas I was pretty much able to steamroll my way through everything. But there was one fear hanging over me. Still not having a map meant I had no idea where the game was taking me, and once again I ended up back in the lake, and then back in the beach, then back in the sea. What is this, Hoenn? All the while dodging the chance I got taken to the construction site, which could then take me to the power plant. Not much exciting happened in these water areas anyway, as I was still steamrolling through everything with Dragon Dance. I also stupidly wasted my Reviver Seed by not paying attention and dying to Toxic. What did I say about comfort? The biome bosses were no threat either, with 2 of them being water types that I just spammed Crunch against, and the third being yet another water type gym leader who, other than having a couple of Dondozo that tanked everything I threw at them, was pretty easy. Along the way I also caught a couple more Gyarados, both with Gentle, and taught one of them Bulldoze. Ivy also returned, adding 2 dragon types to her team. I didn't even need Ice Fang to take them down. In fact, the only scary thing the game threw at me during this time was a random trainer's Lantern who knew Thunder. That Thunder's gonna hit every time because it's raining. Okay. Actually, this was a little more than scary. Just kidding. I outsped it. With 100 floors cleared, meaning I was halfway through my run, the game finally decided to mix things up by sending me to the Ice Cave. Thankfully, this area ended up being a godsend, as I was finally able to find a Gyarados site. But who to give it to? I had assigned different roles to my various Gyarados at this point, with my initial one being my lead to set things up and then switch out a flip turn, my jolly one being my sweeper, best at utilising Dragon Dance while offering great type coverage, and my calm Gyarados being a bulky boy with rest and special attack moves for niche scenarios. The other 2 were also there. To be honest, having this many Gyarados made it really hard to track which ones were which. Having a Mega Gyarados would change its typing to Water Dark, while replacing Intimidate with Mold Breaker. Because of this, I decided that my Sweeper Gyarados would be the best fit to Mega Evolve. And now that I had this new power, I was unstoppable. I blasted through the ice cave, grabbing another Memory Mushroom and teaching Ice Fang to another Gyarados before taking down the biome boss Sea Titan without much trouble. I then did the same in the snowy forest, teaching Chilling Water to my bulky Gyarados, finally finding a map after another trainer battle and then running into Melanie on floor 120. But let's be honest, who does this woman think she is? I have a Mega Gyarados now and she has a team of ice types. I think we all know how this ends. Oh. Yeah, it turns out Melanie had an electric type, and this thing combined with that thing was enough to take out my Mega. And if that wasn't enough, her Mr. Rhyme then proceeded to take out 3 more of my Gyarados, with 2 of them being one-shot by Freeze Dry. What? Remember that thing I said about being comfortable in this game? I went into this thinking it would be another day in the office, and suddenly we were both down to our last Pokemon. I knew this thing was capable of one-shotting my Gyarados, so if I didn't outspeed here, it was over. Imagine having your whole run ruined by Mr. fucking Rhyme. Luckily, I just managed to clutch it, but holy shit, why did this battle take me down to 1 Gyarados? Anyway, finally being able to use my map, I chose to go back to the lake yet again in hopes of finally completing my team. And finally, on floor 130, I found another Gyarados. I accidentally killed it. I then ventured onto the beach, reteaching Rain Dance to my leading Gyarados, and eliminating the cloister that awaited me at the end after it KO'd a Gyarados. I dived back into the sea biome and then caught my 6th and final Gyarados. It had Docile. And then caught my 6th and final Gyarados. Fuck. But whatever, I'd finally completed my team and just in time too, because Ivy was back yet again, and this time, she didn't fuck around. Immediately switching to Rayquaza and taking out 2 of my Gyarados right off the bat. I decided it was time and brought out the big guns. This was the showdown I'd been training for. I began by using Dragon Dance and hoped to survive any attack that Rayquaza threw at me. Well, sucks to suck. Yeah, I took this opportunity and ran with it, absolutely demolishing Ivy's Rayquaza with Ice Fang. As for the rest of her Pokemon,
I think we all know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end.
They didn't stand a chance. Imagine catching a shiny Rayquaza and still losing. Yeah, I'd be pissed too. And shortly after, I had finally, for real this time, caught my final Gyarados. From there, it was pretty much smooth sailing. I defeated Marlon on floor 150 and swept through the seabed, cave, and Badlands, grabbing some handy TMs including Protect, Avalanche, and Temper Flare, along with some black glasses, more memory mushrooms, teaching Dragon Dance to my new Gyarados, and Ice Fang to another, and even a Terra Orb. I also took down the arena bosses Arctovish and Diggersby on floors 160 and 170 respectively. On floor 180, however, I had to battle one last gym leader, Grant, who led with a Cleavior while I sent out Mega Gyarados. Lunge dealt some pretty scary damage, but I managed to shoot it down right after. However, I failed to finish off Grant's next Pokemon, Tyrantrum, and lost my Mega. The surprises didn't end there. Volt Tackle! Okay, well at least that's killed him. Thankfully, the recall was enough to finish him off. We continued to exchange blow after blow, with my 4th Gyarados finally sealing the deal. I was given one more choice of where to go on my map and chose the desert. But the only thing on my mind at the time was the gauntlet of battles I'd have to face next. It was time for the hard part, and based on how some of my battles had gone, I wasn't exactly feeling confident. Thankfully, there were no electric type Elite 4 members I could come across, but I still had to prepare myself to take down an entire Elite 4, a champion, the final rival battle, and then the final battle, all in these last 20 floors. To be honest though, I was just happy that I made it this far. Anything from now on was just a bonus to me. With that being said, I was still burning to get as far as I could. And so I switched to my setup Gyarados, took out the Drapion in my way, and clenched my butt cheeks. Oh, we have the new ones, so that is Ground, which is good, that is Steel, Dragon, and who's the final one again? Flying. That's actually a really good Elite 4 for me. Luck was on my side, but I wasn't going to celebrate too early. Rika led with Steelix, and you're not switching. That's interesting. That means that you have nothing. Upon realizing that Rika wasn't switching from Steelix, I set up my Rain and Dragon Dances and swept through the first 4 Pokemon, no problem, taking a minor detour around Clod-sized Water Absorb before cleaning up with my Mega, winning my first battle without losing a single Pokemon. Next up was Poppy, who again had no answers for even a single Gyarados. I used the same Rain and Dragon Dance strategy against her Pokemon and swept through her entire team. Holy shit, this was going well. Just before fighting Larry too, I also managed to find Relic Gold, which almost doubled my money. Needless to say, it was a good start. Larry showed up and led with Atropius, who tried. I managed to defeat it with an Ice Fang along with his Altaria, but got caught off guard by a foul play kill from his Haunch Crow, followed by a super effective super power hit on my Mega. I answered back with an Ice Fang, knocked out his Flamigo and Ice Fanged his Staraptor. Unfortunately for me though, it lived, and responded with close combat to take out my Mega. A few more back and forths took place before I finally finished off Larry's last Pokemon. The final Elite Four member was Hassel, who annoyingly led with a Kingdra. I switched to my Mega, set up Dragon Dance, finally knocked it out, and then swept the rest of his team too. No hassle. Funnily enough, I was then immediately rewarded with a Dragon Terror Shard, which I passed up. I prepared for the fight against Nemona, but was shocked to see Kieran turn up instead. Yeah, I still haven't played the Scarlet and Violet DLC, so I had no idea what I was up against here. I went into the battle the same as the others, setting up Rain and Dragon Dances and hoping for the best. My confidence wasn't very high after almost losing a Gyarados already to his Dash Spun. Dash Spun? The dog. Kieran then pulled the ultimate bitchless move by reviving his dog and switching out again using Parting Shot. He then sent out his Hydrapple, and me, not knowing anything about this Pokemon, saw the typing and decided I just wanted to take a nice cool bite. And to my luck, he had just missed a Draco Meteor, allowing me to get my fangs in before discovering that this motherfucker was a lot bulkier than I thought he would be. Fortunately, this was okay. I took a Draco Meteor, set up Dragon Dance, avoided another Draco Meteor, set up Dragon Dance again, and finally ended this thing after tanking an Energy Ball. Finally, I had a good setup, with +2 on my attack and speed. Unfortunately, this didn't matter, as Kieran then sent out Politoed, with water being the only type that my Gyarados didn't cover. I died to a Hyper Voice, sent out my Mega and used Dragon Dance while Kieran switched to Grimmsnarl. Bro hung on for dear life before hitting me with a super effective Hammer Arm. Fortunately, I managed to finish him off and put down the dog while I was at it, and then the Politoed came soon after. It was then that I was met by this thing. I'm just gonna hope you flinch. Hey! I don't need to know anything about that Pokemon. Woohoo! With a sigh of relief, I took out Kieran's last Pokemon and won the battle. And as I stepped into Final Destination, I took a moment to mentally prepare myself for what was about to come, knowing full well that the two hardest battles of the challenge were awaiting me. With a deep breath, I set up Dragon Dance and swept through the Paradox Pokemon in my way. With so much money at my disposal too, I also decided it was time I started re-rolling some of these items in hopes of finding something valuable such as a Terra Shard or another good TM. And while I failed to find anything too substantial, the game decided to surprise me in another way instead. Oh, a shiny one? I can't even catch it! That's not fair! Even if this was a normal run, I can't catch it. Oh, bro. With pain in my heart, I executed the Iron Valiant, switched to my setup Gyarados, and took out the final Pokemon separating me from the hardest rival fight in any Pokemon game. As expected, Ivy led with Cinderace. I anticipated a switch, so I set up Dragon Dance while Ivy brought out Dragonite. I Dragon Danced again, but got hit by a Breaking Swipe, which reduced the attack stat I had just raised. I tried one more time, but the Breaking Swipes persisted. I cut my losses and tried to flinch with Waterfall instead, but this failed. But so did Dragonite's next move, so I spammed Waterfall to inflict as much damage as possible. Unfortunately, Dragonite kept spamming Breaking Swipe while healing with berries, so I used Flip Turn and switched to the big guns. Another Breaking Swipe lowered my attack, but I Ice Fanged anyway just to get the Dragonite out of here. Ivy then brought out her Mega Rayquaza next, with 4 health bars. I decided to switch back to my damaged Gyarados to activate one more Intimidate before getting knocked out. I then brought out another Gyarados, reducing Rayquaza's attack to -2, but even with that, an Outrage left me with just half health. I Dragon Danced to hopefully outspeed next turn and followed with a 4-time super effective Ice Fang, but to my surprise it only dealt a quarter of its health, and my Gyarados swiftly got deleted by Outrage. Confusion finally kicked in, but Rayquaza's Lumberry healed it. I sent out another Gyarados, tanking an Outrage before setting up with Dragon Dance. I then used Protect in hopes of triggering Confusion, but it failed. I knew that confusion would trigger on this turn, so I took a risk and used Dive. This knocked Rayquaza to half HP and successfully led to confusion as planned. However, despite thinking I was being clever at the time, I then realised my mistake when Rayquaza consumed yet another Lumberry, and I fell to Outrage yet again. With only 3 Gyarados left, I started to sweat, but reminded myself that the rest of the battle should be fine once this Rayquaza was dealt with. I sent out my Gyarados with Avalanche and struck with the move after tanking another Outrage, and at last, the Rayquaza was down. While I definitely could have used this Gyarados sooner, I didn't want to risk it being hit, and the Gyarados that came before all played their part by lowering Rayquaza's attack stat with Intimidate. Knowing that the Rayquaza was defeated, I breathed a sigh of relief and kept the Avalanche Gyarados out until it was inevitably slain by Ivy's Bombardier. Then it was time for the ace to clean up. I sent him out, prepared a cheeky Dragon Dance, and then proceeded to Ice Fang and Waterfall my way to victory, just barely living a double edge from Cinderace before taking him out in one shot. Ooh! This was one of the hardest fights in the game, but I had done it. I didn't spare any time to celebrate, however, as I knew I had one more gigantic hurdle to get through. What was my plan?
I don't know. I never thought I'd get this far.
I took some time to brainstorm while mowing through the last few waves of Paradox Pokemon, making sure I utilised my final chances of getting good items by using my re-rolling method to stock up on Lumberries in case I got burned, and an X defense and X attack to help me tank cross poisons and deal more damage with Ice Fangs respectively. And then after 200 floors, the final battle began. I think it's no exaggeration to say that I was shitting myself. Let's think about it, this Gyarados is not going to be useful in any way, so I might as well get that attack stat down. I shook off my nerves, chose my first Gyarados, and made my first move on the final boss of the game after lowering his attack with Intimidate. Eternatus spent absolutely zero time fucking around, hitting me with a Sludge Bomb straight off the bat, which immediately poisoned me. I was only able to lower Eternatus' attack stat by 1 stage before being finished off by one more Sludge Bomb, which by the way wouldn't have killed if I hadn't taken poison damage. Good start! I remained unfazed however, bringing out my second Gyarados. Eternatus had his attack lowered once again, and attempting to cut away at his speed too, I then began using Bulldoze. Eternatus had other plans however, blasting me away with a Eterna Beam to start, which took a large chunk of my HP, but allowed me to retaliate twice with Bulldoze, halving his health in the process. I tried one more Bulldoze and successfully outsped him this time, finally triggering his final form. He then doubled his special attack like a little bitch and kindly presented me 5 whole health bars, which I had to deplete. Fun! It was here I realised that his lowered stats didn't carry over to his Emax form, and so, to put it bluntly, I was fucked. As a minor silver lining, the Bulldoze I had used to trigger this transformation did manage to lower Emax Eternatus' speed by 1 stage, but it was very hard to see how I could win this, with Eternatus having the ability to buff his stats further and even recover HP for some reason. Who designed this? It was highly unlikely he would let me just spam Dragon Dance, but nevertheless, it was my only good option here. I switched my Mega out and attempted to use the others first to lower Eternatus' attack stat as much as I could with Intimidate, while holding on to the small hope I had that maybe one of them would be given the chance to set up a few Dragon Dances. My Bulldoze Gyarados was immediately wiped from existence, so using my 2 new Gyarados in play, I attempted to set up one last Dragon Dance for each of them. Eternatus then struck with a Cross Poison, and to my surprise, this dealt almost no damage. I repeated my Dragon Dance setup, and Eternatus used another Cross Poison, with it this time critting and leaving one of my Gyarados with half HP. It's worth noting at this point that these 2 Gyarados didn't have any items, meaning Eternatus had nothing to steal and use against me, and so I decided it was time to attack, and ordered both my Gyarados to use Ice Fang. This wasn't as effective as it was on Mega Rayquaza, but it took out 1 health bar and even ended up freezing Eternatus. Unfortunately, This proved pointless, as Eternatus immediately thawed out and retaliated with Cross Poison yet again. But once again, this dealt very little damage, and so I decided to strike with yet another double Ice Fang. This took out another health bar, but caused Eternatus to buff up more. However, it led to yet another freeze, and more importantly, this time, it stuck. I took this opportunity and used it to Ice Fang again and again, hoping to take out Eternatus for good before he had the chance to eliminate another Gyarados, or worse, use Recover. All the time being on the edge of my seat, I kept up the onslaught, crossed my fingers, and prayed, letting the game decide the rest. Are we actually gonna do this? If he falls out now, he's gonna spam Recover. Or he's just gonna stay frozen. Are you serious? It was that easy. I didn't even need my Mega! After hours poured into this challenge, at last, I had done it. Starting with just one Magikarp and ending with a full team of Gyarados, as well as Lady Luck on my side, I'd successfully cleared all 200 floors of PokeRogue. I sure hope nothing controversial happened while I was doing this. But yeah, glad I actually managed to do this, especially considering I had little to no faith I would actually get this far in the first place. I'm no competitive player, and I know there's crazier challenges out there, but it still felt good. But anyway, thanks for watching my silly little PokeRogue video. If you want more of these, show your support by liking and of course subscribing, and if I get enough, maybe I'll do Bidoof next.